Hello and welcome to another video by me, Ryan, as always. Now I'm going to jump straight in and say if you're looking for an unbiased opinion about this book and some deep insight into the contents, this is probably not the video for you, but thank you for checking it out anyway. So today we're going to cover Darkness in the Blood by Guy Haley, rocking in at over 300 pages, plus it includes a short story at the end called The Taos of Baal, which I'm probably not pronouncing right, but I haven't read this yet, because I've totally finished the main story and fanboyed my way over here to make this video. So what's the book about? It's about the salvation and continuation of the Sons of Sanguinius. Since the events of the devastation of Baal and the other 8th edition narratives, the Blood Angels have been struggling to keep up with the threats that face them in the Dark Imperium. An emissary of Belisarius Call arrives at Baal to give them reinforcements and a new technology to allow the older generation of Marines to cross the Primaris Rubicon. There's a lot of Games Workshop terminology in there, so I'm going to allow some unpacking of it a little bit and to undergo this surgery into becoming a Primaris Marine. So there's a few things that has to happen. You have to have your skin completely flayed from your body. Your rib cage is bisected. 3 brand new organs are implanted within you to go with the other Space Marine organs that are implanted in you to make you transhuman. And then you die. That's right, you actually straight up die, and you have to be brought back by the Belisarius Furnace, which is one of the organs that they've just implanted into you, which is quite lucky for you in that capacity. So that's just a quick how-to of what happens when you become a Primaris Marine. Lucky for some. So who are the main characters? So there's a couple of main characters. Dante, he's the chapter master of the Blood Angels and is also regent of Imperium Nihilus, which is the Dark Imperium. So the galaxy has been bisected by the Cictrus Maledictum, which is a huge tear in the fabric of reality that opens up to the Warp, aka Hell. In fact, reverse those two names. Dante embodies the idea of the hero in the Imperium. His story arc in this book revolves around him retelling some of the battles long past to an admiral that is struggling to bolster his own resolve in his old age, and Dante is also trying to navigate his roles as regent and chapter master. You see, at this point, the Blood Angels are down to a very small number because they've had to defend against the Tyranids on Baal and its surrounding systems, so they're struggling to get their numbers back up, and it'll take time, it'll take centuries to get back up to a certain strength. But this doesn't stop Dante because he's the regent of half of the galaxy, which is bizarre, not bizarre, but ridiculous in its scope. So he is in control of all of these trillions and trillions of people that are struggling to cope with their day-to-day lives because of the alien, the mutant, and the Xenos. So the big question from this book is whether or not Dante will cross the Primaris Rubicon and become a Primaris Marine. There are a number of factors that judge his question, or put his question into some sort of dilemma, which is his own personal struggle within this book. See, if he risks becoming a Primaris Marine, he could actually die and not come back to life. Or he may live, and it may be a glorious thing. And the reason why he's being pushed, or he's pushing himself to answer this question, is because his wounds aren't healing. See, Dante is ridiculously old. He's probably the oldest, or he is the oldest, old-style Space Marine in the Imperium at the moment. He's over 1,500 years old. And he's completely frail, but nobody really sees this because he never takes off his helmet or his armor unless he's in private. So he always gives this impression that he's a constant within the Imperium. So there are a lot of fables and stories that revolve around Dante in this lore, but he is old, and since the devastation of Baal, his wounds aren't healing correctly. And he believes that he is actually dying, so he's looking for a way to continue, which is a noble cause, in all fairness, and that's not a surprise from Dante, because he's wanting to keep serving the Imperium and Sanguinius, and the Emperor for that matter, for as long as he can draw breath. And if there's a manner or a way for allow him to keep drawing breath and keep picking up the axe and the plasma pistol and jumping into combat, he will take it gladly in service of the Emperor. So that's Dante. So Mephiston, he's the chief librarian of the Blood Angels. His arc story takes on more of a personal journey, just like Dante. He becomes a Primaris Marine within the pages of this book, but the path to salvation that he's on is still a mystery, or in fact, probably not there at all. Guy Haley has given us a peek around the curtain, so to speak, and leaves a bunch of questions unanswered. I can see the latter pages of this book being the main conflict of the Blood of Baal, which is out in a few weeks, and actually is probably out by now, by the time I release this recording. So, Mephiston. So I'm not actually massive on the whole lore of Mephiston. There's a whole part where he is Caladarius, I think his name is, and then he dies and he comes back with Black Rage, but he's altered, and his whole psychology is altered, but he's also a more powerful psyker, so he takes on the name of Mephiston. I'm probably diluting this whole story down and butchering it completely, but this is my understanding of a quick glance of Wikipedia or Lexicanium entry. But in this book, Mephiston is struggling to keep hold of his abilities in a manner that is actually functional before something disastrous happens, because his psychic ability has been growing apparently year on year, and since the tear in the galaxy has happened, it's exponentially increased. So he's becoming a fountain of psychic destruction, and that he can barely control in this manner. Through the course of the book, which we dive in and out of the Mephiston stuff, he undergoes this transformation to become a Primaris Marine. Now, I'm not going to spoil what happens from Mephiston's point of view whilst he's on the surgery table. You can spend the money and buy the book yourself and support that library, because, we still want them to keep making these novels, which is a good thing. So go do it now. Pause this video and go and buy something from a Black Library. Okay? Welcome back. So he does become a Primaris Marine, but it's not without its risks. So during the course of his journey in this book, it is now revealed that the Primaris Marines are susceptible to the Black Rage. And this is something that's been purposely suggested since the beginning of 8th edition, but it's actually come to fruition in this book and confirmed that yes, Primaris Marines do suffer the Black Rage, which is great from a hobby perspective, because you get to make new Death Company Primaris Marines. Granted, they've got no jump packs, but less about that the better at this moment. Okay, Games Workshop, make some Primaris Marines with jump packs that don't look silly. Okay. And that's pretty much Mephiston without giving too much of the narrative away. There are some other minor characters in this novel. You dive into the admiral that's struggling with his, I think his name's Danavan. I'm probably butchering that, but that's how I'm read it in my head as I'm reading the book. He's basically, he's got essentially PTSD from something that happened, and he is questioning himself. And he can't fully commit to something because he's haunted by the faces of people that died around him, and he's survived. He's survived to a very old age, and his second in command knows that he's struggling to command, and through conversations with him and Dante, there are some good insights into how Dante juggles between being the regent, being in control of trillions and trillions and trillions, untold numbers of Imperium citizens, and just being the chapter master of the Blood Angels, the defender of Baal, etc. Which means that he can be quite harsh. He can be very, as Blood Angels can be, he can be very poetic. He's the artisan, the master artisans of these bunch of artists, but he has to be cruel in his ability to govern all of these trillions of planets that are across the galaxy. But the Admiral, he has his own journey, and it has some implications to the larger narrative. You know what? I'm not going to mention any more about it, but these are the main characters that are in the book. And I'm probably underselling it, and I know that I've probably waffled on quite a lot. It is a great book. If you buy the limited edition, you get some swanky things. I may do an unboxing video, which is probably not necessary because it's all over the internet, but I may do one anyway. So if you're into Blood Angels, into the Red Corsairs, into the Gene Stealer cult, into Tyranids, into Imperial Guard, if you're into all of these things, then you should get this book, because they feature in this in some capacity one way or the other, and you should get it. Right, so in that capacity, support the library, because we need to keep having these stories and novels and audiobooks come out. So the only way to do that is to buy them. So buy them, they produce them, we buy more, they produce more, and it's this endless feeding cycle of just perpetual amazing Games Workshop 40k narrative. So go do it, go buy them. In fact, go and get Audible. I've got no affiliation with Audible. That's how I read or listen to a lot of my books. So go and do that. It's great. I'd suggest it to anybody, and in fact I still do at the end of this video as well. So anyway, I've babbled on long enough, and this is a long video for me. So take care of yourself. I'll see you in the future. Play more games. Be nice to each other. Peace.